Okay. Hi, everybody. This is Wendy Murdoch, and this is Webinars with Wendy. This is our first live in the barn webinar, and we're sorting out technical details. So thank you for hanging in there. It's great to see you here. I was hoping to be able to do Facebook Live, but we're having trouble with that. So we're just going to go with what we have. Daisy Bicking has traveled down here from Pennsylvania, and she's brought her assistant, Kimmy, who is standing in the background and is not wanting to get on screen. And I have a good friend, Steve Macklin here. He's here to kind of help us just do whatever we need, like moving tables. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is look at the radiographs of the first course, who is named Question Authority, or KID. She is 24 and she has had laminitis. So let's see, you're not on your screen. So you're on my screen.
I'm on your
screen.
I'm
going to stick on my mask so you can come close.
Okay.
Okay.
Excellent. Okay, so give us a little bit about her history.
So 24-year-old Connemara Thoroughbred Cross, and she had severe laminitis a year ago Christmas. So I took over her trim in April, and as everyone knows, I'm a hacker. I'm not trained, but I do the best I can.
You do a great job.
Okay, thanks. So because of all the information about having annual radiographs, we had the vet come out last month and take radiographs of all three horses. And so these are the radiographs of the KID. And we did all 4 feet.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, these are her back feet down here. Those are her
Should
back
say
feet.
left hind.
Left hind. Okay, cool. All right. So, those of you that have been, listening to my stuff and seeing what I look at on these radiographs, I'm just going to go back to some basic guidelines. And I think, certainly her feet don't look like a train wreck at all at this point. I think you've done a good job at kind of getting everything stabilized. Her right front is the more upright foot. The left front is the lower angle foot. So,
and the right front was the worst foot in the laminitis.
Yeah, right, which makes sense. Yeah, which makes sense. So, what I'm going to look at here is, obviously we would like the dorsal wall to be parallel to the dorsal aspect of P3, but her corium here, you can see the shadow, that's the blood and nerve supply. And so that corium is, enlarged, and that might never go away. So, we want to be careful that in trying to realign this, that we're mindful that her corium is extended. It doesn't mean we wouldn't still aim for realignment. It just means, we just have to be careful we don't overthin the front wall. I also want the hoof-pastern axis to be straight, and she's still a little bit broken forward. And, you might know better than I would how much rotation she had in her laminitis and whether she was kind of upright to begin with.
We never radiographed her when she had the laminitis.
Okay.
So
you're not sure.
And I took her over in April of last year after all this happened. So okay. I can't remember.
That's okay. Yeah. So my goal would be to realign this a little bit. And then, to get the breakover back a little bit more aggressively maybe than you might do, just because now that we have the radiograph, we can see that if we look at the center of rotation here, which is this bottom end of the short pastern, and we drop a line down, that she has, her heel support is less than her toe support. We'd like that to be a little more 50-50. So the nice thing is a lot of horses we have to preserve heel on, but here we have room.
They can't see the pictures.
You can't see the pictures. Crap.
That's why I thought, let me just stop share and reshare.
Yeah, good idea. I hate it when that happens.
I hate it when that happens.
It's really frustrating.
That's why I thought I better check. Okay, can you see them now?
Can you see them now, guys? Can you see that image?
Oh yeah, yep.
Yay!
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay,
okay,
so
I'm going to keep track of Alex, who's my assistant, but she's somewhere else, and
great.
And Alex will keep us honest.
Okay, so starting over. This is the left front. So in your mind, flip this X-ray around. A lot of radiographs don't necessarily point the right direction because of the way the software processes them. So this radiograph looks like a right front if we were standing in front of the horse, but the L tells us it's a left, and it's labeled left 4 here at the top. The DP, of course, we have to wonder if it's also flipped, but we'll look at her leg. You can see she leans a fair bit here. The joint space is slightly closed on the lateral side, the outside. Her vascular channels do seem like they lean a little bit away from parallel. She's got dishing on the medial side with some separation here at the bottom. And, you know, while she has dishing on the lateral side, it makes me think that she's been fairly club-footed or upright for probably most of her life. Her bone in the quarters is very straight. So we have some room to address the medial-lateral balance. We were talking about this radiograph that there's more toe than heel support, and she's broken forward in her hoof-pastern axis. So we have a little bit room for realignment. And what I was talking about with the corium is here, you can see the shadow, that it's actually telling us that the blood and nerve supply is still a little bit wide for a healthy, non-laminitically affected foot. So you'd want that to be about 1/4 inch, no more, so 4 or 5 millimeters. And you can see it's wider here. So we just want to be mindful of where that blood supply is, because it's going to limit our ability to trim maybe the way we want. And so this is another reason why having radiographs on any horse is a good idea, because you don't know what the history is in this foot. You don't know if things are distorted or not. The right front is the more upright foot. Wendy stepped away, so I'm going to take this down so you guys can see me a little better. So this foot is more upright. The palmar angle is higher. For me, an ideal palmar P3 angle would be between 5 and 8 degrees with a straight hoof-pastern axis. So some horses will be more upright than others. She's broken forward on her hoof-pastern axis, and she has a higher palmar P3 angle, and we have dishing in the dorsal wall. So my goal is phalangeal realignment with these guys. So straight hoof-pastern axis, your phalange is your digit, right? And then capsular alignment is the hoof capsule being well centered around the internal structures. So there's a little bit of dishing that we have room to take down. We have a little bit of heel that we can remove to get the palmar angle a little lower and help straighten the hoof-pastern axis. And then I would want to bring the toe back a little more aggressively and maybe utilize this toe callus, which will help us just move that footprint back even a little bit more. The right foot also appears to have a bit of a rotation to it, like a yaw rotation, meaning toe in, toe out. And if this is the right foot, we have to look, but I would imagine that this is the lateral side. So never assume that your radiographs are taken like showing you the way that they all look in real life. You have to really be a detective about this, which is why it's nice when the veterinarian puts a marker, a physical marker on the lateral side of your plate on the radiograph, or you have a scale marker in here, because this foot, I would imagine, you know, her other foot, see, this is the DP on the other foot, and this one's marked lateral over here. You can see this foot, it's rolling medially, so it's kind of rolling to the inside. She's got more dishing on the medial side with this separation here. That's really common. And we'll look at all this on her feet, of course. The vascular channels are leaning. The joint space is pinched on the lateral side. And so there's just a lot of really asymmetrical things going on. Huh? Oh, yes, but Wendy's doing a very good job. No, I'm being super nitpicky. This is not about your trim. This is about her. Gosh, you know, we're assessing. This is not personal.
It's totally okay. It's not personal.
It's not personal.
Trying to get more people in the webinar.
I know, it's great. It's great. It's great. Okay. So I suspect that this is also the lateral side. So does that make sense to you? That this side, if this is lateral here and she rolls medially.
Well, I was consistent on my trim on all 3 horses.
You were lateral side being longer. Right, that's right. And we all have biases like that. So it's good to be aware of that. So similar, the things we're going to look at are similar in the right to the left front, and similar medial lateral as well. So the good news about that is that it's easy to tweak. We can remember what we need to just get after a little bit more very easily. The hind feet, you know, are maybe a little bit low in the heel, but not bad. We don't know if her cannon bone was perpendicular to the ground when this radiograph was taken.
No, because he put the horse on the block and pulled the block
forward.
And so
yeah,
so about all the rear feet.
Right. So it's hard to assess the balance on rear feet when they're not perpendicular to the ground. If you can imagine, this foot is parked underneath her, that goat on a rock posture, right? So if it's up underneath her, assessing hoof-pastern axis is a little bit you know, questionable, but we still can see that we want to preserve heel because we don't want to lower that heel anymore, lower the palmar angle or plantar angle on the hind foot anymore. And we have room to back the toe up. And the corium, you can see, is a little bit elongated on her here. So we're going to want to be careful with that. And same on the other hind. And then medial lateral.
I'm not sure she was square on that block.
Yeah, she doesn't look square on the block, but it appears like she might have some lateral flare we'll address.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's her radiographs. And Wendy, have you trimmed since the radiographs one time?
A little bit.
Just a little bit.
We had a conversation and I did a little bit, but
Okay.
I was not super aggressive.
Okay, so we're gonna bring her out. Will you get the camera, please? And we will watch her walk towards us, and then we're gonna look at her feet.
And you just have to make sure your camera is working when we do that.
Yes, okay, so turn me back on, just stay down there. Unmute. And then I'll go down here. So you go down there like we're gonna walk, just walk her down, but give me 1 second. Okay, there's Kimmy, turn your camera around. Kimmy, like do the flippy do. I'm gonna mute you here, Wendy, okay? Okay.
No, that's good because otherwise it's too
Yep, your finger's in the way. There you go. Okay. Oh, hold on. I know. Hold on.
Oh, yeah.
Stop share. And then we're gonna pin me. Pin. There we go. Okay. Oh, no, I pinned you.
Yes, you're right. That's okay. I can get it back. You just have to come up here.
Oh, okay, thank you. Oh, why does it do that?
Because you're hitting, I'll do it.
Okay, you do it. You do it.
Okay.
You want to pin that one?
I know.
No.
No. Okay.
There we go. Good. Now we're good.
Yeah, that's us.
Okay, that's us. Here we are. Okay, so I'm going to come down here. Yep. Why don't you back up? Back up. Back up. Oh, okay. 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 So what we want to watch when she's walking towards us is we want to watch where she's landing. I'm not assessing lameness. I'm actually just looking at, is she landing flat? And sometimes this is hard to assess if it's not done in slow motion. All right, can you do that one more time?
Yep.
Okay. And try to come right at Kimmy like you're going to run her over.
Right.
Okay.
I know.
Oh, 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 oh.
Oh, cool. I can see it walking away.
Okay. Try that again. Okay, what I'm seeing is it looks like she's swinging medially and then landing hard on the outside. If you all can appreciate that, okay? And if I was really needing to be much more detailed, we would slow-mo video it so we could look at it later. But for the sake and purpose of today, I think we can really see that she lands harder on the outside because it's longer. And the radiograph confirmed that. Hi. Okay. So if you want to keep your camera down there at the ground level, I'm just going to talk about her feet a little bit, Kimmy.
You want me to turn her around or have her?
I think she's okay right there for the moment. Okay. So what?
We could aim the lights down.
Oh yeah, we could do that too.
Brad, you want to aim the lights?
So what I'm looking at with her feet is I'm looking at on the radiograph, we had surmised that the flared side was the lateral, and that seems to be correct because we can see that this side leans out more and this side is more vertical. The other thing that we can see is she has an offset capsule. So if we're looking down the center line of her leg here, okay, you can see that there's more percentage of her foot to the outside than to the inside. And if Kimmy, what I'm doing isn't showing that on your screen, you just let me know, okay? If I'm at the wrong angle for you. So you can see that the front of her foot is trying to be here. There's actually a flat spot right here, but look at how much more of her lateral cartilage is on this side
compared to this side. Can you appreciate that? There's a whole lot more space here than there is here. Kimmy, yes, no?
Yeah.
Okay. So the other thing that I can observe is that she's got a fair bit of that rotational aspect to her foot, which is why on the radiograph, she looks like she's so off balance medial-lateral. So the facing plane of her knee is here. That's where she's going to break over. So one tip that's really helpful is that the horse is going to break over typically where their knee faces. Then as we go down the leg, we can actually look at where her anatomy is situated going down the leg. And I like to do this with my model in hand. Can you see both? Okay. So the fetlock joint here, what you can palpate is you can palpate where the joint surfaces come together. Now this model does not have the sesamoids, and it doesn't have the distal or proximal sesamoids. I don't have that on the bottom either. But you can feel exactly where these joint surfaces are on the horse. And you can actually tell where the rotational aspect of this joint is. This is pretty straight, okay? Centered to, where her center of mass and weight bearing would be. Then we can come down to the PIP joint, the pastern joint, and we can palpate that. So we can come in here and we can feel exactly where the joint aligns here, there, and there. So that to me looks like it's rotated out a little bit more. Does it look that way to you? Compared to where this is, this looks like it rotates this way. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Then coming down here, where the lateral cartilage is, and I can draw that. So this is really helpful to me to draw my lateral cartilage. Can you see that on the screen? Okay. She's very hairy. It's shedding season. And she got a nice bath. So she's a little bit wet, but that's okay. I think you can see that. Okay. Let's see. So you can see where the lateral cartilage just wraps around, and how if we look at where her pastern is and her fetlock, she's not in the center of that at all, is she? Can you appreciate that from what I'm showing? Okay. So, and it looks like the front of her foot should be here. That's where it looks like the tubules are running, or this direction. So I never want to make an assessment about balance based on just one or two criteria. I'm always looking to validate my assessment based on looking at multiple criteria, and my minimum is 3. So I'm trying to assess if she's going to break over on this side, where's the middle of her foot in comparison to that? Okay, we have more mass of foot on this side than this side. And I want to look at the radiograph confirmed that she's leaning medially. So she's rolling this way. Okay. Can you see that with this tubule direction? Does it look like it's kicking off this way just a little bit? Yep. And then we have too much foot over here. Okay. And that's what's affecting her medial lateral balance. So we think about this from the top. Okay. So leaning this way and this way. And the goal is to have a stable support base so she can stand up with gravity when she's hanging around. Obviously, I want the joint spacing to be level as well. So this is just about how do you contain the distortion that's happening in the foot. Okay. Are you with me?
Yeah, I've been just making sure everything's.
You're good.
running.
You're totally good. I'm having a blast just assessing her because she's really interesting.
Yeah.
So you have more on this side, and it looks like she toes in this way. So more foot out here, rotating medially, leaning medially. So that means that this is really in her way, because if this is where the facing plane of that knee is here, it's hard to draw on this winter coat that's coming out, because all that's happening is I'm getting
I know.
totally fine. I get it. No criticism, no criticism. All right, so let's look at the bottom of her foot. Okay. Do you want to turn her around to do that? Or we can walk her up, and you can just come on the side.
Walk her up.
Yep, that's fine.
Because your lights are aiming this way, and you'll have it on the bottom
Sure.
of the foot.
And that's great. Do I have gloves, Kimmy? No? Okay.
Where would we find the gloves?
They'd be in the back of the truck.
Okay.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, so this is her right foot. So on the radiograph, that was the foot that was more upright. And I like to then now map the bottom of the foot. Hi, Lovey. so that we can corroborate the top and the bottom together. Sorry, it's getting my wire brush. It's really bright. Is it too bright? If you touch there, I think it looks okay.
Okay.
You don't think it looks okay? Can you guys see okay?
Glary.
A little glary. Should we aim the lights back further? Take the lights away. Back them up.
I wonder if it would help if she was just a little further away.
Yeah, we could just do that. Just walk her that way, a step or two. Yeah. Okay. Right. One more foot. Bloop, bloop. Good girl. Is that better? Okay, we'll see. We'll find out. Okay. Is that better? Where's the shadow? You're making your own shadow. There you go. Perfect. Oh, you're wonderful. Thank you. Gloves. It's funny how when you're used to gloves, it's hard to trim without them. All right. So Wendy, do you want to come watch? Okay. So
This is why we have a village.
that's right. That's right. Especially for these live things. You good?
Yeah, the camera is creating the shadow.
So we need to move
You
the
know what,
light.
Jimmy, if you film from the other side of the horse.
Yeah, come on this side.
Okay.
Then you won't be in the light.
She's good.
Yeah.
She's an old tried and true.
How's that? Can you get on that? Does that work? Is that better?
I think so.
I can check it. I'll check it.
Okay. So when we look at hoof mapping, I've got very specific steps that I want to go with. And you can see this is the separation that was on the radiograph, and that is on the medial side. Okay. And that's what the radiograph showed. That's why I thought maybe it was flipped. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to find the true end of my bar, and I'm keeping my exfoliation to the back of the foot. She's got a nice, cute, tiny little foot here. So I'm going to find that live sole without going into the live sole. Just basically, I'm just scraping the chalk. I want to find where the true end of her white line is. I know, good girl. There we go. And over here, we'll find that right in there. Okay, so I've got that cleaned up. We've got a lot of excess frog here, and she's got mud flaps here at the back. So for me to see the architecture of the back of her foot, I want to clean those up. And I'm not trying to remove frog mass. I just want to make sure that I can really see where the true bottom of my collateral grooves are, so I can understand how much room I have in my heel height and where my heels are, because her heels are back about at the widest part of her foot. So that's not her problem. Her problem is more about just how much of what parts do you take? And Wendy, I think that, you know, you've been doing a good job at getting the job done for her. I mean, look at her foot. It's very symmetrical. It's wonderful. We're just trying to like bump it to the next level for you.
Yep. That's why you're here.
That's why I'm here.
And then I can
Okay.
follow what you do.
Yeah, perfect. I love that. So by looking at that, I can really see now where the back of that foot is. Okay. It's much more clear, and I can see where my frog is centered in the foot. And that does look like about her frog apex. I mean, if you want to be picky, especially if your frog apex is run forward, it's nice just to trim that a little bit, because they do give us a false impression of how much toe we have. So in mapping this, see which marker is going to work. This is the back of her foot here. That's pretty easy. Flat spots, frog turns from ground surface to heel bulb surface, back of the collateral grooves, V dimple. Okay, very interesting, very easy to find the back of her foot. End of her true white line of the bar is there and there, and the bar swells are here and here. And if I trace the junction of sole to white line in my quarters, and I take a straight edge and I go across and draw a center line down the middle of my foot, that's helpful. Here to here. So the tangent is where the widest part is, should be under the center. And then we have our frog boob. That's a very technical term, which is the rounded part of the frog that Dr. Bowker talks about. That's right under the navicular bone. Okay. So we have all these lines, and they're all very, very, very close to each other. So easy to see that the center of her foot is going to be here. Of course, if I can draw a straight line, that helps. I'm a doodler when it comes to mapping, which, you know, is hilarious because it's fairly precise, but I doodle. Okay. So now if I'm going to look at the rest of her foot in the front, she has a nice toe callus, although her sole I would consider a little bit retracted. There and there. If we go from the true frog apex there over to the quarters, between that, and then we project our 50-50 line forward. So there's our 50-50 line. So that's 50% in the back and 50% in the front. And if we look at here to here, the breakover line and the extension of her apex of our frog, this is her toe pillar right there. And then right there. So it's on the end of the toe callus to the frog apex, the true frog apex are our pillars. So we can use that as a structure in order to, get her toe back and not have her be sore. Okay. We definitely have heel height available to us and we have room in the toe. So what's deceptive though, is this long length of wall here compared to the shallower length of wall there, as well as if we look down her leg, we're tempted to look at heel length and make them even. And that is actually not an accurate way to assess medial-lateral balance. Come this way, just there you go, right there. Can you be there? Okay, so we want these in our eye to be level. But if you take the heel bulbs out of it, so let's say I take my rasp, hold on, baby, good girl, stay here, good girl. If I take the heel bulbs out of it and I sight down her leg a little bit, I don't know if you all can appreciate that this side is actually high. Okay, from my perspective, I can see it clearly. Come towards yourself just a little bit. Yep. I think there you can really see the twist. Okay. So the heel bulbs, the back of the foot is so deformable that it skews our eye. She's got a bit of a sheared heel on this side. And that's from the offset capsule and leaning on this side of her foot. This is pushed proximally. So we want these two sides to be the same. And that's not an accurate measure of medial lateral balance.
Did she have a little break?
Of course. She's a good girl.
She's really, really good.
She's being so good.
And when she was Laminitic, that right foot always went really wide. I mean, so for who knows how long.
Okay. She would step out with it.
She would step way out with that right foot.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah. And that was what I watched with her as she was getting better, as it came more and more.
To the midline. Yeah. Do you think that was because like maybe she sunk medially some and maybe the medial side of her foot hurt?
It's really hard to say, but that was a noticeable change that she went from.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I could kind of assess her comfort level, was whether or not that right front was landing straight versus significantly out to the side.
Right. So, right. That makes sense. So what I'm looking at this point is, can we stay there for a second? So if I finish drawing the back of her lateral cartilage here, Dr. Bowker talks about wanting 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, right? And we have about that. I mean, she could have more mass in her digital cushion, but she's an older girl and her frog isn't bad, but it's not terrible. I can get my fingers under the lateral cartilage a little bit, but she's sound for her retired life, and that's wonderful. That's all we need.
And she crawled in Tanner's nest. I didn't feel that.
Great, which is awesome.
Yeah,
which is awesome. So, but what you can see, if I don't stand in the light here, is we still have more foot over here than over here. Can you appreciate that? So, this offset capsule gets them in trouble on this medial side, because what happens is they end up overloading this quarter and it shears the heel up, and we get the separation at the bottom, which is like low grade laminitis because the wall connection with the lamini isn't as strong. So the way we fix this is we address the arches so that the joint can be more balanced and bring the lateral side underneath the center of mass in our trim as much as possible. And we're not taught this in trimming. We're taught symmetry to the bottom normally, but because of working on so many distorted feet and all the laminatics and all the radiographs I get to see and work with and do at home, what I've learned is that if I think about how the horse loads from the top and I shorten this side, what that's going to do is it's going to bring the trapezoid that right now is doing this. If I shorten this side, lower it and bring it in, it's going to make the foot do this. Okay. Plus, if this is in the way of her breakover, meaning the lateral toe there, we know that the knee faces that way. She's got a lot of length on this side. So we would take stress off of the medial side. Yep. And it seems counterintuitive. Depends on whether you're thinking about the foot, the sole surface standing on the ground versus the horse loading the foot from the top and using it as a support base. And because gravity is our constant, I'm worried about how the horse loads the foot from the top. Okay. Now, the other thing I want to look at is that center line. And Kimmy, you might have to walk around her to show this. What I want to look at is, good girl. Oh, she's silly. We can move her over. Thanks, Brad. Oop. Good girl. Good job. Oh, thank you. Okay. Come here, sweetie. So we want to look at is the center line here. Okay, look where her cannon bone is. And if I look at what straight is, okay, that's straight to her cannon bone. Do you see that? Okay, if I go straight to her frog, the midline of the frog, look how my rasp handle kicks off to the outside. Okay, so that's confirming her toe in. That was the impression I had from the top. And we can confirm that here on the bottom. And the other thing we like to look at is, if we take the center line of this frog and we draw it up here, okay, like this, up onto the dorsal wall, let's look at where that goes in relation to what perceived as her middle of her foot. Okay, okay, come around the front, Kimmy. Can you see that? Do we need to back her up now? Okay, so what I thought was the middle of her foot is about the middle of her foot. Let's put that line back on so that line was right here where there's like a dip here, and look how close that is. So the twist on her is not happening in the coffin joint.
Okay, so where's it happening if it's
Higher up.
oh,
Okay, in terms of her toe in, toe out, her coffin joint is straight to itself, because otherwise you'd see the bottom of her sole, the sole map would be twisted offset from the center line from the top if the twist was happening in the coffin joint.
oh, cool. So that's good news.
It's good news. Yeah, it's good news.
Because
The sole print is in symmetry with the rest of the three-dimensional capsule.
Right.
So her load problems are not really coming from her foot. They're coming from her anatomy higher up, which we can't do anything about.
Right.
So we're just going to trim her to give her a little bit more level joint space and get the capsule back in alignment a little bit more, and she'll be good. So you don't have a lot to do.
awesome.
Yeah, I know that's a whole lot of assessment to come to the conclusion of you're doing a good job.
It's not bad.
No, it's absolutely not bad. It's great.
Cool.
It's great. And I don't get too hung up in trim style with like, how much bar do you take? How much frog do you take? If you can see where you're going, and you can see what you want to do with balance, I don't care exactly if you put a big roll on the foot or a small roll.
Okay.
I just like to see that the mechanics is accurate so the horse is loaded in a neutral way. Okay.
Yep.
So should we trim this foot?
Yeah, let's get this
Okay.
ready.
Okay. I know. She's like, how long?
We picked her because we knew she'd be good.
Yeah. So you want to go back to that side? Yeah. Let's, she is. She's being very, very good. Yeah.
Even on the mouth.
Good girl. There we go. Yeah, let's get back in the center. Good job. Oh, look at this. Perfect. Okay. Good job, girlfriend. All right. Let's see how we do here. All right. May I have the tools? That's helpful. Okay. Can you see? Is it a little too shadowy? How about we turn that one?
Yeah.
Turn that one a little bit. Yeah. Is that better? Is it still too shadowy? Okay. Yeah, look on the computer.
Says that looks good.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so when I'm looking at this, I like to start in the back of my foot, because if you start where different people start different directions. I often start where the foot's longest, but what I know I want to do is I want to lower her heels because we know the palmar angle was too high.
I have one comment. Everything would help if you say this side is going to the same side or say right or left.
Okay.
Which does say confusing.
Well, right. So, this side I'm pointing to right now is the lateral side, and this side is the medial side. We try not to say right or left because it flips around so much. So lateral side, medial side, and I'll try to point to the side I'm talking about. Thank you.
No, it's good.
Okay, good. So I lowered the heels to start. Now I'm going to bring this side in. So I'm going to open my angle of my nipper and I'm going to nip this length. Remember that the more you stay vertical to the foot and lower things, you're lowering without bringing things in. The more open the angle away from the sole, you're bringing things in without lowering as much. Okay. So I kind of want to do a little bit of both lowering and gathering. So that's where these, 45 to 65 degree angles are handy. Okay. Give her a quick break. So now I've only addressed that side of the foot. So I need to still take some length. So I like to take my foot to the balance I want and then decide how much shorter do I want it to be. Does that make sense to you? So if I'm sitting here thinking, okay, I know I want to bring in the lateral and lower the lateral a little bit, back the toe up and leave a little more on the medial side to fix the medial lateral imbalance. I can do that and leave a lot of foot, or I can do that and take her way too short. The balance can be the same no matter how much length you have. Mm-hmm. So all I did right there was just started with like what I had the most to remove.
Right.
Okay.
And if you need more like a shot of my side.
It's really, can you come show the front really quick? You should look, Wendy. It's really interesting to see what that did already to the balance. Brad, can you see that difference? It's interesting, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
All I did was nip the heels down a little bit and bring in and down on the lateral side and look at how much different her foot looks. Yep. So it's going to be the kind of thing where you're going to keep your same trim and then you're just going to think a couple more RAS swipes on the lateral heel and quarter. Yep. And that's going to help you a lot. Okay. Because what you were doing was really good. We're just going to give it a slight tweak.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Ready, Kimmy? Yeah. Okay. Thank you for doing that. All right, kiddo. You're doing great. You're a rock star. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to address my other quarter. So I'm just going to take a little bit of this, not nearly as much though, like that. Okay. So I'm still going to leave this wall longer. And now I'm going to back my toe up and I'm going to be careful not to get rid of my pillars. And those pillars, remember, are at 10 and 2. And it's the transition between the quarter and the toe. Okay. And remember, her 50-50 line is here. Now, that doesn't mean that she can take that. Like, it doesn't mean we have to get to that line. Okay. That's not a trim line. It's a goal. But we saw in the radiograph that we actually have room to get there. Okay. Plenty of room on the radiograph. So now I'm going to do the same thing with my rasp. And I'm going to put a little flat purchase on that wall because I don't want it to be a knife edge. I want to leave wall on her in the quarters to facilitate getting the toe back so she doesn't get sore. Okay. And I like to leave my inner wall on the ground and my outer wall off the ground. So basically repeating my trim, but now I'm doing it with my rasp. You can do it all with your rasp. It just takes longer and you work harder. If you're really slick, you can do it with a grinder. That's another lesson though, isn't it? Yeah. So I'm leaving this heel just a little bit higher. So I'm tipping my plane this way. This would be flat and level. So I'm tipping my plane of my rasp a little bit to leave height over here. Does that make sense? Yeah, show it here. Go down the back. So this would be level. And I'm tipping my rasp that way. So I'm just like, not instead of this. So I want to leave height on that side. Okay. And then rolling this side. And I'm going to back the toe up.
Height on the medial.
Height on the medial? Is that a question? Yes, height on the medial and lowering that lateral because of the radiograph and our assessment that this is functionally too long for her. And notice how I'm leaving pillars. Okay, I'm leaving some wall in those pillars, even though I'm backing everything else up. And then rolling that outer wall, but leaving some inner wall so that she doesn't get tender on the sole. Because, you know, a lot of these horses can't take loading the sole as actively as we would like, especially in a wet environment. Yep, it's good. So there's height of the wall there, and there's height of the wall on the inside and the outside, but more on the inside. Okay. And you were doing that. I think intuitively, I think you were doing that. And you were doing a good job with that. Great.
Yeah, I'm watching how much you're stretching, and it's not a lot, but it is a lot.
Right. And I honestly think that your biggest challenge is, I think you just weren't taking enough.
Right.
Right. Like it was all getting a little distorted just because you weren't taking enough in some of the places.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Cute foot.
Well, and you can see how much hoof growth she's had that's different.
Yes. That new growth is beautiful.
And that new growth is since August when I added the magnesium and salt.
Okay.
And they all have that same growth line.
That's cool.
Yeah. That's Nick Barker.
Yeah. Oh, you're a good girl. So then the last of the symmetry I do like to take from the top.
Okay.
Okay. So Kimmy, you want to back up there a second?
Someone said they're having trouble hearing Wendy's comments.
Oh, okay.
Far away.
Okay, she's too far away. Okay. Okay, not on my foot. Thank you. Good girl. All right. All right. So there's some dishing here. Dishing here. So what my goal is hang on, Lovey. Hang on. My goal is to get, hang on. Where are we going? Don't leave. Good job. My goal is to eliminate the dishing, but not take it down to the dip. I want to match the growth that's 1 inch below the coronary band. And this is how we get the rest of our symmetry into the foot. Hang on, Lovey. So we don't have to take all of it, but just sort of get the symmetry back, I think is helpful because it's coming anyway, but good girl. Good girl. There we go. Okay, good. Oh, tell us about it.
The interesting is to like compare the two front feet now because they were similar in the
Yes, and the
wall,
yes.
and so people can see so that you can kind of like recap on the mic.
Yeah. So what we're looking at is I've adjusted the lateral side for that break over where the knee is facing. So I've eased the lateral toe pillar a little bit and brought in that lateral side. And what we see is that when this flares out on the outside so much that the medial toe dishes badly and pulls away. So she had more dishing and flare here, just like you can see now on her other foot. More dishing and flare there. This is pulling away. Center of her foot is here. It's leaning medially. So her front feet are the same pattern, which is nice. That's convenient of her. But, and we'll address them the same way. Differences will preserve a little more heel on the left one because that's her flatter foot. Can you see that in the?
And now I can see how much her front leg conformation with her knee slightly turned out is translating all the way down into her feet.
Exactly.
Which I didn't notice before.
Yes. So to get a true symmetrical capsule, we can't always just follow the sole plane.
Right.
That's the part that I think we're often not taught because it's really hard to teach this on paper. And even it's an experience and a feel thing, and you have to be able to see your anatomy and look at load. And this is not stuff that everyone learns, and that's okay.
Right.
Because not every horse needs this level of, intervention, but it's the ones that get really wonky and you never know why that some of this kind of stuff can be really helpful for. Yeah, so you have like a before and after comparison. Okay, so I think for the sake of time, I think we should probably just go ahead and trim the other one and then we can look at the backs.
Yes.
Okay.
I totally agree.
Okay, great.
Let me just check the computer.
Okay, good, good. Okay, why don't we slide her back this way? Love. One more step. So we already know that this other foot is going to have the same pattern to it. So my approach in my trim is going to be very similar. Good girl. And I'm still going to do the mapping even in my head. And I'm still going to, look at all these things. Even if I'm not drawing on the foot, I'm still considering all the same things. Get under her for a second, sorry. So I'm going to clean up my bars so I can still see where the true bar is, make sure there's no bacteria traps in there, and make them straighter. Long bars are bent bars. So, we're going to poop about it. She's like, yeah, I'll tell you what I think of this process. I know, it's good. So trimming up my frog, just make sure there's no bacteria traps. Obviously, the rest of her frog looks pretty healthy. There we go. That all looks good. So now I can see where the back of my collateral grooves are, where my true end of my collateral grooves are down here at the back, where my bars are. So really similar. And look, on a barefoot horse, the bottom line comes down to you can't go behind this toe callus, especially because her sole is slightly retracted. So if you want to bring that toe back, even if you want to get to say 50-50 in your mind, it's just a guideline. And so you can never go back further than that callus. That's your limiting factor on a barefoot horse. Okay. I'm gonna give her a break for a second. So Wendy, what's my approach on this foot going to be?
You're going to reduce the lateral wall.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to gather the lateral side of it. You're not going to take anything on the medial. You're going to kind of roll the edge of the foot, and you're going to reduce the heel a little. No, wait, this is the flat foot. You're not going to take the heel down on this.
I'm going to take a little bit.
Okay.
There's room to take some, just not as much as the other one.
Okay.
And really, I'm looking at hoof-pastern axis.
Right.
Right. So what I want to look at is, she's much straighter on this hoof-pastern axis. That I think that some of her misalignment is actually the dishing in the wall that some people take from the top and some people don't. Right.
Okay.
So I know you don't typically address feet like the flare from the top, right?
I do a little.
A little.
I'm
Okay.
Very conservative.
Okay. So, if you got after this a little bit more, on the radiograph, this being the dishing in the wall here, the radiograph might not have looked as misaligned.
Right.
So that's why, to me, when we look at laminitic horses, looking at that dorsal wall rotation, or the rotation we look at between the bone and the wall in the front, is not an accurate assessment of the problem, because I can take care of that in one trim. And it doesn't mean that foot's any healthier.
Right.
So we like to reference that, but I personally, it doesn't mean much to me. Just tells me how much foot I have to trim. So, okay. So gave her a little break. Pick her foot up for a second here. Go, good girl. So gather the lateral side, lower the lateral side, bring this in some, but not as much as the lateral, and then roll the toe back. Right? Okay. So I'm going to lower the lateral heel just a little bit. So maybe 1/8 of an inch instead of 1/4 of an inch is the difference. Then I'm going to turn my nippers on an angle. I'm going to do a steeper angle here to bring this in more. Steeper meaning away from the foot. Can you see okay, Kimmy? Am I making a shadow?
The lights are really bright on the hook.
Hmm. Could turn them away a little bit, maybe.
Or just dial them down a smidge.
Yeah, I can dial them down in the back.
Which one's the dial?
No, the other one.
It shows a percentage.
It's a percentage.
when you Dial.
Yeah.
That's better.
Yeah. Good. Aren't they great? I know they're great lights. Bring this side over. So I'm thinking about preserving my pillars, yet getting the toe back and gathering the quarters. Okay, so now, again, raising this side of my rasp just a little bit because I don't want to rasp them looking at the heel bulbs, because then I would do this, right? I actually want to leave height on that inside. And then round the quarter. There's my toe pillar right there. So we preserve that. I did dust that a little bit, but it was chalky and a little high, so that's okay. I really prefer not to touch sole in front of the widest part unless it's excessive, which in a wet environment is usually never the case, right? Maybe on foundered ponies. Okay. And I think I would slipper these heels.
Okay.
Okay. So when we do a heel slipper, we're going to look at how they're hooking in here. And there's a fulcrum right there, which is like a ridged, raised spot on the back of the foot, which is there and there. That might be hard to see. Right there, it's like raised. You can feel them. Sometimes you can close your eyes and feel them. I'm going to go from the bottom of my bar swell up here to that fulcrum, and then draw a line to the base of the collateral groove. It's not an opening cut. An opening cut would take all of this out. That's a bad idea. There's corium in here. All we're doing is going and taking this curl out on an angle so that when dirt pack gets in here, it pushes the tubules out instead of allowing them to continue curling in. Okay. So what I would do, I would take a nipper. I'd put it on that line. You see that? Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's my line. Put it on the line. Just nip that. So see how I did it on that line? Okay. And this one, same. Put it on the line right there.
Yep.
Just like that. Okay. Let's give her a break for a second. And then we'll finish the slipper so that the tubules are just unloaded where they're curling. That's the only thing we're trying to do. It's different than the Pete Ramey, rocker the heels back, because that's on the back of the heel. Mm-hmm. Some people have success with that and like that. I like a heel slipper a little bit more.
Someone asked, is that how you eliminate underrun heels?
Yeah, it's uncurling the tubules. Is that how you eliminate underrun heels? It's eliminate the curl in the back without dropping the height down, because we don't want to overly lower the height of the heel in the back. Preserve the arch in the back of the foot, but we also want to uncurl it. So it's a way that we can uncurl it without losing our height. So if you look at the back of the foot now, even though I uncurled these, which I'm not done doing, but I haven't lost my height. I still have the same height because I have it here in the front of the heel purchase and in the wall and the quarters. My height is the same, even though I've uncurled those heels. Okay. So to finish that slipper, because I can see it's still curling right here, I'm just going to take my knife and I'm just going to blend that plane through, and you can see where the bar was actually curled up under there. Mm-hmm. So this helps uncurl the bar and get the chalk out of the seed of corn where we get abscesses. So you can see how there's still a kink in this bar, and this one doesn't have a kink now. This one's really straight and this one has a kink. So we can just come in and finish straightening the bar and get the chalk out of the seed of corn. And that can help these guys a lot. We're not scooping it, we're making a straight line. She just has a really cuppy foot.
Want to show your rasps like how you showed me before, so you're not taking away any toe?
Oh yeah, watch that you don't touch your toe pillar. So your rasp needs to be on this angle so that you're not actually getting into your sole and your toe pillar when you're doing your slipper. Okay, so sometimes you can put your thumb here to prevent doing that. You're just matching that same angle that we drew here. Okay, let's see what it looks like from the top. There we go, cute feet. That's fun.
We're really liking your camera work.
Oh, good job, Kimmy. Good job, Kimmy. Ah, hi, you're a good girl. You're being so helpful. Thank you. Okay.
She likes this dog.
I can tell. I can tell. So that's without doing anything from the top. We already have that much more symmetry. I know my gloves smell funny. Oh, I know. There's no cookies. Sorry. There's no cookies. It is a funny reaction. Yeah. Okay. So now I'm just going to address that from the top, and that foot is done. And there's not a lot more to do. I've done 90% of it. So even if you didn't want to touch that, you'd be fine. I just like to get rid of the last of it because it is a dimension of length, right? Okay. So again, I'm just making my rasp parallel to the new growth at the top, and whatever comes off under my rasp as I work my way forward is what needs to come off, like that. Hang on, buddy. Hang on. I know. So my rasp is at this angle, if you can see that. Whoops, I'm moving like that. Okay. So I put my rasp parallel on that plane, and then you just go straight down the foot. Casey LaPierre calls this a guillotine stroke because it's like the guillotine going down. It always helps me remember what I'm supposed to be doing. This one isn't as dramatic as the other one, which makes sense because that was her more upright foot. There we go. Look at that. All right, kiddo. Yeah, and yeah, just a minute. Yeah, I can give her a walk. Hi, Lovey. I know. She's doing great.
And then for her back feet, I'm going to throw the Duma blanket on.
Great. Okay.
I think that'll.
Sure.
She just fits.
Sure.
It's hard for her on this back feet.
Sure.
You're not going to have as much.
It's fine. Yeah, we can talk about how it's hard for her on her back feet. And so we will go ahead and be efficient. I need to put mine on.
But I only have it on.
Oh, well, I have a new one. Let's put the new one on. Okay, so she's gonna walk towards us and we're gonna see. I don't know how much of a difference you all will be able to see, but it looks to me like her landing is a little more under herself. She's swinging less and it's a little bit softer landing. I don't know if you all could see that. Did that?
Can we do it again?
Do it again. Yeah, do it again. Ooh, yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Come right, Brad, come right at Wendy. Yep. Come right up. Good job. She's still landing a little bit hard on the outside, but that's as much as we can address it in a trim. There we go. Good job. Okay. All right. So do you want to see if people have questions about that really quick while we set up for back feet? Okay. Yeah, I'm just going to sweep. Yes.
You want to talk about that?
Well, yeah. So like the bars get compacted because they're being overloaded usually from the top down. So to me, that's a situation where you would address it by, thank you, correcting the correcting the imbalance on the front half of the foot, like getting the hoof-pastern axis aligned, getting the toe back. And even if you had to prosthetically build some fake foot for now, you could do a glue-on composite shoe and build some heel in, which would help perfuse the back of the foot with circulation because the arch is collapsed in the back. And if you can do that, then you have a chance of rehabilitating those heels and getting some growth back there so you have foot to work with. Because when they're that bad, it's just really hard. You have nothing to work with. The corium is right there. They're very sensitive and you feel like you just can't gain any ground. But if you can fix the front half, you have a chance at the back half.
That seems to be the end of the questions.
Great. Okay, good. That means I answered all of it. Everybody can go trim and we're good. Oh, good. I'm glad. Okay, so why don't we, should we turn her around to do the back feet from the bottom?
Because it's easier to, because everything's set up.
Yeah, okay. So let's turn her, you can bring her up here, turn her around so her back feet are like in this space. Hi, good girl.
And just tell them, we're gonna put the beamer blanket on her.
Yeah.
They won't see what we do.
Yeah, so we're gonna put a beamer blanket on her to help her feel more relaxed and kind of get some blood flowing through her big muscles. Okay, so, see it?
She's uncomfortable with her back feet and
Yeah, she's uncomfortable with her back feet, so this will help her be more comfortable. I'll be fast. I'll be fast for her. So we like to use beamer in our hoof care work because it does help horses relax and be more comfortable. It increases circulation down to the microvessels. So it's going to help perfuse her muscles and her soft tissue with blood and nutrients and oxygen, and also help put her in her parasympathetic nervous system. So she's relaxed, even though she doesn't seem very stressed.
Yes, if she just gets uncomfortable, and I don't know if we put her on your surface pad in front, if that's gonna also make it easier.
Okay, let's try that.
Yeah.
So we love using Surefoot with our horses to help them be comfortable. This is my beautiful pink physio pad that's well used and holding up over the years greatly.
Yes. we do.
Right? Okay, let me leave this alone. I know, it doesn't even have a, this was the first one you sent me.
Yeah.
And look how great it looks.
It looks awesome.
I know, we use it every day.
It's amazing.
We love it. Okay, so if you want to step her up on,
I do that while you-
she's like, I know what to do here. Okay, so on her back feet, we couldn't really assess the medial lateral balance. We're just gonna give her a minute to stand and relax. We couldn't really assess her medial lateral balance, but you know, we're gonna preserve heel on the back feet. I'm back here, sweetie. And we're going to get after a little bit more of this lateral flare. And you can see where it's really pulled forward in the heel, and she's almost threatening a quarter crack right here. Okay, so this is one of the reasons why I tend to get after these things a fair bit, especially when we have it on the hind feet. Especially when the horse has sore front feet, their back end takes such a beating.
Yeah, and it's hard for me to, I'm not fast,
Right,
so she gets frustrated with me being slow.
right,
And I've tried different heights, I've tried jacks, I've tried, stickers.
right. I totally can empathize. I do like to tie their tail up out of the way. One less thing to fight with. Sure, sure. Let me just, why don't you step back for a second, Kimmy? Let me pick her out and just see how she's going to feel about having her back feet picked up. How's that? So if you want to come on this side for a moment. Yeah, thanks. Okay, I'm actually going to pick up this hind because she's standing really square on that left one. So I'm going to see if she wants to pick up the right hind first. Come on, sweetie. With these guys, I always let them tell me where they want their foot. Oh, hold on, that can go over there. No, you're good. Thank you for helping. Yep, you're good. Good girl. So sometimes it helps if I do little circles with their toe and just find that they're comfortable. A lot of these horses that are tight on the back end really like their foot held to the midline and can get quite comfortable there. It's just really hard for us to work on them like this. Wendy, do you have nipper springs?
I don't have nippers, I just have a wrap.
Oh my goodness, girl.
You said you were gonna bring me to it. Yes.
Yes, thank goodness. So, she's pretty comfortable right here. Now, do you think she'd use a grinder?
I think it's worth a shot.
Would you use a grinder if we determine?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Because I'm slow and she gets frustrated with me.
Yeah, so let's try a grinder. So you can see the lateral flare here. We're gonna get after that. And this wall is pretty good. The heels are fine. We're gonna pretty much leave them alone. I don't nitpick these older horses when they're stiff on the hind. We'd have to be fast. So this side, we're just gonna reduce that. We're gonna bring this in a lot and roll that toe. Okay, and I can do it with my nippers. The nipper spring really helps. Okay, because I can use it one-handed. Okay, so you can come in here and you can just kind of say, okay. But this is a really, really, really difficult position. Can you see how bent over I am?
Yes.
Like this is impossible for most people to hold.
For any length of time.
Yeah, right. I mean, this is like, who needs yoga, right? And now nip one-handed, right? Yeah. The things we do, it's like, woo, woo, you get all twisted around. So let's see if she's going to be okay with the grinder. Because I think that'll be easier for you and faster. And
Yeah.
okay. Nipper springs, they're made by a company called W Brand. And you can get them online from one of the online farrier supply shops. And they're wonderful because they go on almost any pair of nippers. And it's this like spring here with these gaskets, which are honestly just castration bands. And you can put 2 on like this, which is nice. And what it does is lets you use one. Wonderful. Because the hardware that you put on them would be really complicated. They do excite one-handed like this, being bulky, and the spread, the handle, little hands is too wide. So I like these because you can even like close them down a little bit if it's like springing too wide for you to grab, and they work really well. And every once in a while they'll break, but they're $10. They last plenty.
Yeah.
Okay. What I'm going to do is I have my little grinder here. This grinder, unfortunately, is no longer made. I'm really upset. Hitachi got bought out by Metabo, and then Metabo was making this for a while, and they recently discontinued it. So what you want is the smallest body, shortest, most compact that you can get. Okay. And then I use a 24 grit sanding disc on mine. Some people like flat discs, but I like the flat sanding disc with a backing because it mimics the rasp.
Oh.
So when I'm thinking about the angle that I'm using my grinder, it's the same as the rasp, so it translates really well. Where the flap disc is convex, and I feel like I have to be really careful that I'm not taking too much.
I'm having video problem.
Okay, let's make sure that's not everybody.
It's a little dirty down here.
It's a little derpy. Well, we can give it a minute and see if it restarts, although I'm not doing anything important at the moment, just talking with the video at least. Can everybody hear me okay? Just the video's a little?
Audio is fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't I just keep talking for the moment? We'll see if it picks back up. Is that fair enough?
The sound is fine. It's just
The video?
the video. Yeah, I don't know why, because it's running so well.
I know, that's frustrating. Hi.
I think just go ahead and see how she starts with the grinder.
Yeah, because that's not a visual, right? So right now she's just checking it out. I'm just letting her sniff it. I'll just talk through what we're doing.
And she's been clipped.
And she's been clipped, so she's used to loud noises. And she's happy on her physio pad, and she's beaming. And what we tend to do is let them smell it, let them be okay with it, turn it on where they can see it, see what their reaction is. If they're chill with it, then we, leave it run and go down to their foot. And usually if they're going to jump, if you touch their foot with the grinder, now the noise is now associated with a physical touch. And if you just stay calm and stay with them, they usually just settle right into it. You'd be amazed how many horses don't mind the grinder at all. Obviously, I've got a good grip on my grinder, so if she would jump and bump my hand, the grinder doesn't go flying. And I always have an exit strategy with my grinder for safety, and I always have eyeglasses on and a mask so that I'm not breathing in the dust.
Yeah, we're gonna have a little more hope. This one is about to flip his hay bag.
Yeah, he wants to share.
He just wants attention.
Okay, just wants attention. You're next, buddy. Don't worry. Okay, so I'm gonna turn it on. You care less. I think so. Let's smell it. It vibrates a little bit. Okay. Okay. Yeah, right. She's like, that's fine. Good job. Okay. So she doesn't care about that. I'm just going to walk towards her hind end. She really doesn't care about it slowing down. Sometimes, again, the only time they jump is if when you touch them with it. Somebody have a.
We're still going.
Okay. All right. Yep. Yep. It could be the grinder. So all I tried to do there was just same thing I would do with my rasp, gather those quarters. I don't care if the quarters end up a little scooped in my effort to gather them, because it's when you need to get after that much flare, it's like you're going to have to take length.
Right.
But as long as you have your heel points, your frog is healthy, and then her toe callus, and then we left the toe pillars with a little bit of more wall at the toe. So if you think about the action of the hind foot versus the front foot in locomotion, right? They push from behind and pole vault over their front legs, give or take, right? So I don't mind leaving a little extra toe on the hinds. Like I'm less worried about the true 50-50 because the distortion tends to be in toe height, not toe length.
Right.
So if we leave a little more wall at the toe in order to facilitate getting the quarters gathered in for the flare and the cracking, to me, that's like a compromise that's acceptable. She was a rock star with that grinder.
I mean, when I've clipped her, she's been fine. So
She didn't care.
Yeah,
And she's standing pretty comfortably. I mean, she let me do that.
yeah, I think
Oh, she's falling asleep.
I think the combo of the beamer with the pad
Is
the
super.
trick for her.
Yes.
And that's what I
Yes.
haven't been doing. I've been like, it's the combo.
Yeah.
Do both.
Yeah, exactly. It's really powerful. I mean, this is quite routine for us, this combo.
And that's like I said, I've been slow, and so I forget that, because I'm like, but this is definitely the way to go.
Yeah. Do you usually, go ahead.
Someone asked a toe pillar question, but I couldn't see it.
Okay, we'll come back to that in a second. All right, so you can do the flare from the top with the rasp, but I don't know if you want to show really quick how much we got after that flare just from what we did on the bottom. Can you see the difference?
Yeah.
And then do you want to show the other foot, Kimmy, that we didn't do? Yeah, you might be able to just lean under her. She's so good. Yeah.
Flare was similar, huh?
Yeah, so look at how much flare is there versus just by getting the quarters in from the ground surface and being willing to scoop them a little bit. I don't leave them knife edges. I still put a little flat purchase on them because I want them to be solid, but you can really address a lot of it from the bottom. And then I'm going to get this last little bit of dishing right here because that heel quarter crack is right here. If you all can see, it's threatening a crack. And this heel is really dishing under. Can I show this way? Yeah. Yeah. Can you appreciate that crack is right? Oh, I think you're in the shape. There we go. It's right there. Yeah. Yeah. Can you see it right there? And see how it's really dipping in right there? if you can appreciate that. So what I want to do is I want to get rid of the flare in front of it up here. And I don't want to make that any narrower at the bottom because it's already dipping in too far.
Somebody's asking, when you're leaving more on the toe pillars, is wall height or wall width that you're leaving? Is it the wall height or wall width that you're leaving?
Well, on a hind foot, that's a good question. So yeah, I'm going to repeat it right now. Yes. The question is, when I'm leaving toe pillars, am I leaving wall width or wall height? And the answer is both. Because if I need to adjust the AP balance, so if I need to adjust, say, I want to lower the heels or lower the toe, I'm going to take that little smidgen of height if I need it. Like in the hind feet, I'm going to lower the toe pillars. But then when I round the wall, I'll leave the width of wall instead of the height. Because what I want to do is stand her up more on her hind feet, if that makes sense. So if you need to take the height, leave the width. If you need to take the width, leave the height.
Don't take both.
Don't take both, because then you have no pillar left. And if you can leave both and you want a more robust pillar, that's fine too. That's sort of what I did on her front feet because, you know, we were affecting her balance and I wanted to gather that wall in the quarters a lot. So, all right, so I'm going to bring this forward. That's a good question. My sweetie. I know, good girl. Okay, good girl. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to take a little bit of the dish out of the bottom, but not too much at the back of the heel. So I'm not going into the dip. The dip, if I took all this down to the dip, it'd be too much. So I'm really looking at the growth above. That's 1 inch below the coronary band. So you can really see that if I put my rasp right here. Can you see that with the light? Yeah. How there's a big dip in the middle of that wall. I'm not going to take the bottom to that dip. I'm going to instead try to match the wall that's a little higher up without over thinning that. Just putting a bit more of a roll. There's no flare here. Then back here, the flare comes back in back here. You can see it. My rasp is my stand's in the way a little bit. Can you see that? Okay, so there's a dip there again. So I'm going to kick the back of my stand out of the way and get in here this way. Now you can do it with the grinder, and I'm sure she'd let us do that. Okay, so you can do it with the grinder, but you know, you're not going to push down on the grinder because this is feather touch stuff. And I think millimeters matter very much. So I'm being very careful what I take and what I leave. Okay, I'm gonna stand on that, kiddo. Oh, thank you. Yeah. There we go. Yep, and down. There we go. Now maybe show the difference between the two now that I've finished it from the top. Wendy, what do you think? Yeah, and I'm really not doing that much differently than you did.
That's what I'm noticing is how little you're doing and how much it changes.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
Less is more.
Less is more.
Less is so much more that it's where you do it, not how much you do.
Right. It's more important sometimes what you leave than what you take, or that you take what you take thoroughly so that over the cycle of the trim cycle, that it's not getting ahead of you and getting distorted again. Yeah. Okay. Let's see if we'll do the same on the other hind. It'll be fast and easy. I mean, I do a trim normally in literally no more than 15 minutes. Right. So, but this is all the stuff that just goes through my head in that process. And I want you guys to be able to appreciate that. Okay. So now real time. Here we go. Same thing on this foot. Preserve heel height, gather quarters, bring back toe to some degree. Let her find where she's comfortable. A lot of times staying towards the midline helps. And notice I'm just letting her put her foot where she wants it. Millie, not right now. Nope, no, we're not doing that. No. Okay. Okay. So I'm just going to straighten up the bars a little bit because they're laying over. There's not too much to do there. Hang tough, hang tough. I know. Good girl. Good girl. And just that one. Again, not nitpicking. The frog is pretty healthy, so I'm going to leave that all alone. I'm going right to my grinder. Okay. Okay, we'll look at it. So you can
Does
make,
that have like a little distorted, like crooked?
yeah, yeah, she's like
Yeah.
towing in on that. And then she's also lower on this side, which is probably why she flares out so badly on the outside, because I think she just rolls lateral, rolls out just a little bit. And then if she toes in, you know, where's her stifle, where's her hock, she's probably just putting a lot of leverage on that outer wall, which is why it pulls away, even though it's not high enough.
Just be careful with her on this one.
Is she a little kickier?
This is the leg I struggle with,
Okay.
and why I've had so much lateral flare, because I just can't get it done comfortably.
Yeah.
I said she was so uncomfortable
Yeah.
on this one, and not that
Yeah.
she's gonna do anything, but I don't want getting down. on her.
She's sleeping.
I think the combo of the beamer with the pads.
Pads is good. And then the grinder.
And the grinder, and letting her foot come way over.
Yeah, like I'm
I
almost
think-
trimming her in behind her other leg,
Exactly,
right?
And I've been trying to come where I'm more comfortable, because
Right.
that's kind
Right.
of enough for.
Right.
So 4 things.
4 things. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and look, there's no reason why you couldn't just tip her foot, use the grinder on the back, and then pick it up just enough to get around the front and kind of be done. Yeah.
it's much faster.
Yeah. And just really obviously be aware, I don't need to tell you this, of your own body mechanics so you don't hurt your back. And that would be a flat back, stick your butt out, bend your knees, bend at your hips, not your waist, right?
Does that toast, does that toast still look a little long?
Yep.
Or are you gonna-
Yep.
Okay.
I'm going to bring it back some more. Yep. It's interesting what she's done on the front.
Yeah. Well, she was thinking about going somewhere, and then she changed her mind.
Yeah. I'm not sure that that's a choice. I think it's more just like, I'm tired and this is where I stopped.
Yeah.
I'm asleep
Is
and
the blanket still running?
it is, yes. So it's good. Okay. Do you want to step her up on the pad a little bit more? Thank you. Put her there. Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Nice even footprint on that pad. Did you notice? I noticed. Okay. So, get the grinder all the way. And I don't, do you have a hoof stand like this?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I don't switch to the post.
I was gonna say, but you're using it in a way I don't. So
Yeah.
that's cool.
Because I don't like to switch it and I think they slide off the post too much. Good girl. So again, I can use the rasp and just get the back of that heel. Because again, it's dipping and there's another crack threatening there. And then I can come around the toe. And then get this side. Can you see okay, Kimmy? Yeah. Great. Yeah. Or I can do it with the grinder. Good girl.
What's the size of your stand?
It's a medium stand. The size of my stand is a medium hoof jack.
They come in different sizes?
Yeah, there's a standard, a medium, a mini, a draft. The medium is great because it goes lower and then it also, you can still raise it up, where the standard stand has a higher base, so it doesn't go as low. So, all right.
You know, Walker,
Yeah, sure. We should take the beamer off, eh?
somebody's asking what size this is on the ground.
I think it's a 4 3/4 and it's 24 grit. All right. See what she thinks of all this. Her Daisy makeover. So sometimes, Wendy, when they have the retracted sole the way she does, and their feet are really soft right now, loading them directly on their sole callus that way, they can get what I would call sensationful, which is not painful. They just can feel things more actively. And because their feet are so wet, it's like, they're just going, wow, I can really feel that. So if you feel like she's that way, usually a coating of hoof armor just to recallus everything really quickly helps a lot.
Yeah, that's.
Great. So I'm not worried about her being foot tender or hurting her. We just proprioceptively have loaded her feet very differently.
Right.
And because her feet are so soft, she just might need to get reacclimated to that.
Someone asked, what do you mean by retracted sole?
Oh, okay. So a retracted sole is a sole that is, it's a bad word. None of us like the word, but it's a sole that is sort of sucked up into the concavity of the bone, is where the name come from. What we think it's actually about is more about moisture changes or a little bit of systemic inflammation. And the bone actually settles into the sole. So what you're seeing is the bone thinning because the corium is compressed. The blood and nerve supply is compressed between the bone and the keratinized sole. So it wouldn't surprise me if a horse like her, like hormonal changes, seasonal changes are hard on them. And we've had a lot of, environmental change as well. So
Well, we just went from hot,
hot, dry to cold, wet.
cold, wet.
And I think their feet like just settle out a little bit. It's not necessarily a true, like laminitis event, anything like that. I don't think. I think it's more just mechanical. Their feet have to adapt.
Right.
And, I remember a number of years ago.
And we checked her pulses yesterday just because.
Yeah,
so
you do. Yeah, I know. I'm not worried. I mean, her feet, the white line's tight. The integrity of her feet is fantastic. Her wall is thick. Her soles are firm and resilient. It's more just that retracted sole, I think, happens due to change. Their feet are constantly changing. Pete Ramey and Dr. Bowker did a clinic for us in this area a number of years ago. And they both said that we have like the worst environment imaginable because it's constantly changing and the feet constantly have to adapt. And so, clearly we know she's got metabolic issues. We know that she is well managed. And so we keep an eye on it. They do not unretract. They have to grow out. And if they get a little tender, hoof armor helps a lot. Boots can help. Glue on shoes if you have to. But I'm not concerned about her.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So Daisy, if you want to wrap this horse up in terms of kind of start to finish, and we'll wrap this webinar up.
That's great. Thank you. So this was really fun. Thank you everybody for joining in. And Wendy, thank you so much for having me do this. This is a blast. This mare was a really great example of how small differences in the trimming and looking at radiographs objectively and looking at the structure on the outside of the foot can help you improve your trimming even more. So, some of this information is things that I've learned from other places, and I've just kind of put it all together in my own mind. And this is what I look at when I look at the horse. So if you have questions about that, feel free to reach out to me. I'm always glad to talk hoof. And, I think she's going to transition just fine. And I hope this has given you, Wendy, a couple of tips and tricks you can use just to help her just have even better feet, because you're already doing a great job.
It's awesome because, again, the thing for me is you did very little, but it made important changes, and less is more, but it's got to be in the right direction. So it just, it makes me feel good that I was on the right track, and also the things that I needed help with, which I knew I needed help with. So
yeah, it's great. And those x-rays that you got preventatively, I mean, you know, how ironic that when she had laminitis, you know, she didn't have x-rays and you did them proactively, which, you know, she obviously was recovering. There wasn't concern, so you didn't need to see at the time. But with her now, you checked in to be proactive and there were a couple things to tweak. So the benefit of those preventative radiographs as well. Yeah, it's great. Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much, everybody. It's been a blast. Yeah. Yeah. You want me to come over that direction? Okay. I'll get my mask.
That's okay. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. It's our first live webinar. It looks like we got it worked out. It was awesome. So thanks for joining us. And of course, this will go up on the Surefoot Equine YouTube channel, so you can check it out there and watch it again. See you next time. Bye.